Welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and my pronouns are he, him.
I'm Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network, and I, too, am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
My name is Dave Riedel. I write about movies. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and my pronouns are he, him.
And on this week's show, we are going to be talking about 3 movies. Before we get to those movies, we want to tell you that over on our Patreon this week, our Patreon exclusive audio, we are talking about the 2006 film Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah.
And just a brief...
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was just going to say we're talking about it because I hate Guillermo del Toro and thought, why did I watch a movie of his that's supposed to be amazing? That's why.
Yes, I was just about to get to that. Yeah, but Dave just covered it. We wanted to see it because Dave does not like Guillermo del Toro, but he wanted to give Pan's Labyrinth a shot. And yeah, you'll just have to become a patron to listen to that audio, or if you're already a patron, go check that out so you can hear what Dave has to say about Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah. Sorry.
No spoilers on that. So, on this week's show, we've got 3 movies for you. The first is Fresh. Then we're going to be talking about The Desperate Hour. And we are going to close with the much anticipated movie, The Batman.
The Batman.
I mean, it's just hard not to laugh anytime you say The Batman, just based on the fact that in all Batman iterations, I'm pretty sure there's always people who call him The Batman.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's accurate. That's why I like it.
Me too.
Right. And they're usually people who are about to get their ass kicked.
Yeah. I always think of Aaron Eckhart in The Dark Knight being like, I am the Batman. Take me into custody, or whatever he says. But he does say, I am the Batman. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, that's comics accurate. That is accurate in some of the films. So yes, I love that finally it's being leaned into as the Batman, and it's great. Anyway, we will get to that.
Yes, we will. But first, let's talk about Fresh. This is a movie that's coming to Hulu. It is directed by Mimi Cave and written by Lauren Kahn. It stars Daisy Edgar Jones and Sebastian Stan. I'll give you the one-sentence plot summary from IMDb. The horrors of modern dating, seen through one young woman's defiant battle to survive her new boyfriend's unusual appetites.
Well, isn't that coy?
I will preface this conversation.
What's that? Well, isn't that coy?
Yes, very coy. I'll preface this conversation by saying that I did not finish this movie. I literally could not. I was about an hour into the movie, probably even a little bit less. I felt so sick by what I was seeing on screen that I was feeling physically ill and I had to stop. So please keep that in mind, listeners, as I talk about the portions that I have seen. That said, this is Spoiler Piece Theater, so I'm actually excited to hear about the rest of the movie from Megan and Dave, who have seen it and were braver than I was.
I just have to jump in and say, not only did I watch all of this, I've seen this twice. So
whoa, Nelly.
What does that say about me?
It says you like some horror grossness, body
I like
horror.
some gore.
I mean, if you wanted to talk about a movie that's a body horror movie, yeah.
Yeah, right. And I'd say normally I'm a little bit better at handling body horror, and even to the point where I genuinely enjoy body horror. But this got to me on a very visceral level that I'll talk more about in a minute.
I understand,
but
it is disturbing.
Yeah, it is. It deeply disturbed me. So all right, so we've got Daisy Edgar Jones, who plays Noah, and Sebastian Stan, who plays Steve. And what's I think really interesting about this movie is about the first 30 or so minutes are kind of like your standard setup for like a rom-com or something like that, where it's like these two people meet, he's in the grocery store, and he, strikes. First of all, it starts with her having a horrible date with like this shitty douchebag scarf guy who's just terrible. And like
that's actually his
great
name in the
example
credits.
of like
shitty douchebag scarf guy. No, I don't know.
By the way, that actor plays the nicest character on Jane the Virgin, so it's great to see him be a total douchebag here.
yeah, that's funny. That's really funny because he's such a tool.
Yeah.
But it's like such a great illustration of like anyone who's dated and been on a bad date where you're just like right from the get-go, you're like, I don't like this person. They're just everything they do is a turn off. They're rude. They're shitty. They're just
he's
like
racist. He negs her.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah,
that's right.
You're
He's
like,
racist
God.
too.
And
He's like,
Yeah.
I forgot. He's talking to the server who speaks perfect English like she doesn't speak English. Right.
Yeah, and he even says, I don't think she speaks English and understands me.
Yeah. Even though you just heard her speaking English like 30 seconds ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he's gross.
So yeah, he's terrible. And so she goes on that horrible date, and she's, we see some scenes with her and her friend Molly, who's played by JoJo T. Gibbs, and just kind of like, ugh, dating sucks. It's horrible, this and that. And then, she meets Steve, Sebastian Stan, at the grocery store, and he strikes up kind of a cute conversation about cotton candy grapes and how he's taking some to his sister and his niece. And cotton candy grapes are pretty awesome. Yeah. It is very cute, and I love cotton candy grapes.
No,
yes,
it's their rom-com meet cute.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. And then, unfortunately, later, it's not so meat or cute.
Well, actually, it is meat. But he actually has a really good line in that he's like, "So do you live around here? Because I live on aisle 6, and I come over," and I was just like, "That's actually really funny." I don't know if I would ever use it on anybody, but I mean, that's a good line, man. So
it is. He's very funny and charming, and so it's easy to see why they kind of quickly fall in together. Although he definitely exhibits some red flags pretty early on that she's kind of like, I'm having fun, and I'm just, maybe I'll be like a little bit reckless when it's like, oh, I don't have an Instagram or social media, basically. And then there's like the part where he asks her, oh, you haven't told anybody about me, have you? Like, it's definitely some like, ooh, these are kind of creepy, maybe indicating some weirdness. Like he wants to surprise her and take her on a trip somewhere and not tell her where they're going.
Well, that's super creepy because I was like, I've dated people who don't have social media profiles, so that didn't actually seem that weird. But yes, I'm going to surprise you with a getaway. I was like, oh my God, do not do that.
Right. Yeah. And then it's like they're in the car. She's like, I've got no signal. And then she's like, she gets there and she's like, I still don't have signal. Do you have Wi-Fi? He's like, oh, damn, it must be down again. And then like, here's this drink. And then, he starts to look fuzzier and fuzzier from her perspective. And you're like, fuck, no. And that's like about 30 minutes in when you see the opening credits of like
33 minutes
passing out from the drugging.
Yeah.
I love that you're a stickler for that, Dave.
Well, you know what? It was so strange because, I mean, that is... I remember the first time I saw Raising Arizona and the credits pop, the name of the movie pops up 13 minutes in and just being like, that was a long, I mean, Jesus. And then this 33 minutes, that's crazy.
I love it.
That is kind of nuts. Actually, it's a quick side note. This is just a fun game that we would play. Shauna and I would play when we were watching The Good Wife. We would wait and pause at any time that the opening title card came up, because sometimes it would be like absurdly deep into the episode, like 15 minutes and 33 seconds in like a 45-minute show. So that's always fun. So I understand being a stickler for the exact time that the credits came up.
Thank you.
I didn't say I disliked it. I liked it. I thought it was funny.
No, I didn't. No, I understand where he was coming from. I accept the correction because we know it's an important detail. So that's when things really shift into high gear, into horror territory, is when she wakes up chained in his basement. And she finds out that first of all, that she's not the only person chained up in his basement. There's 2 other women there that are chained up. And second of all, that he plans to cut off pieces of her body and sell the meat to people who want to eat it.
Yeah.
Yep.
In a word.
And now you will start to learn why I turned this movie off.
Yeah. Well, what was the moment that made that you were just like,
yeah, nope. I was like, I still don't know the moment.
So, I mean, like, that was kind of disturbing. Like, that
kind
reveal.
of disturbing?
So I was like, okay.
I mean, okay.
Like, I watch watched a lot of horror movies.
true.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's like I'm not the most squeamish person. I don't usually turn things off. Like I said, I enjoy body horror as much as the next, horror fan. But what really started to get to me was first the scene where he takes the leg
Oh,
out
God.
and he's butchering the leg and he's dancing to Obsession, which on its face is pretty hilarious. But the fact that they just render the leg in such, like, in my opinion, realistic looking detail and treat it so kind of like, the music is funny and him dancing is funny, but like the meat, the way he's packaging the meat and sealing it with one of those like little things you can use to like, vacuum seal things, like that to me started to make me feel kind of queasy. Like, okay. And then what really did it to me was when she's like, oh, I want to go take a shower. And he's like, well, okay. But if you're bad, like you're going to face consequences. And so she tries to escape. And then she wakes up paralyzed on his table. And he's like, I'm just taking your ass right now. And to me, that was just like, that was the straw that broke, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I was so horrified by that individual scene and felt so queasy from just the idea of it. And also just like the not just like the concept of her being paralyzed while this horrific thing is happening to her, but then also seeing like him in the background.
Just kind of having fun.
And
with
I lost it. Yeah, I lost it. And like, I just felt like I was going to puke. So I had to turn the movie off. But like, to me, like I can isolate it down to, I see plenty of horror movies, plenty of body horror. What freaks me out, like really freaks me out and disturbs me, is things that are treated like realistically in a way that like I feel like it could happen. Like just like when I watch a movie that's like a true story and something horrible happens, I always use the example of 127 hours, like the scene where he has to amputate his arm. Like the fact that I knew that someone had to do that made me feel queasy in the same kind of way. And so I just like something about this movie and this like visceral way that it was showing things, and to me just made it so real in my head that I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough, man. It's Roof. And Megan, is that like the most rough part? I can't even.
Yeah, that probably is the worst part.
I mean, I guess it's also gross when like he takes her to dinner, he cooks her dinner, and she's eating I think she's eating the woman who's gone crazy because so much of her has been taken. I can't remember what her name is. Melissa? And she forces herself to throw up afterward. And then they have dinner again. And that was hard for me to watch, the second dinner, because you know who she's eating, her best friend. Because she gets, Molly, the best friend, gets suspicious when Noah sends her a text that said, and Molly, they always say, love you more. That's how they end their phone calls and their text messages. And Molly writes, love you, and she's expecting love you more back, and Noah just sends a heart emoji. And she's like, all right, I was already thinking this was nuts. Now I'm definitely, something's wrong. And so she figures out where Steve lives and goes to confront him. And Steve's wife is like, man, that's crazy. I don't know. And I'm just sitting there thinking, well, this is going to go south. I mean, this is bad news. And Molly's about, Steve comes home and he's like, nope, my name's Brendan. Don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, okay. And then Molly calls Noah's phone and Steve has it on him and it rings. And then he's like, oh, look, I have her phone. And then his wife hits Molly from behind. But then you find out that his wife has been Stockholm syndromed.
Yep.
She goes to
she's missing her leg. Yeah.
She goes to take a shower at one point and she has one leg. The other one's amputated at the knee. And I mean, I figured that she was probably a victim because of the way they speak to each other in the bathroom right before she takes the shower. Something just seems a little off. So Molly gets captured and she gets, Melissa's dead at this point. Molly's put in the third prison room. I don't know what you'd call it. Yeah, and then at one point you realize they're eating Molly. But here's the good news, Evan. Or do you want to tell Evan the good news, Megan?
Oh, sure.
There's good news.
Oh boy, can't wait to hear it.
Oh, geez, I won't tell you.
No, I'm just kidding. I am legitimately excited because I didn't have to watch it.
The good news is that, well, all the women are very clever and very shrewd. And the good news is that Noah and the rest band together and they get away, and then they're in the yard, and then Steve is chasing them, and then his wife is chasing them, and in the backyard. And yes, but they ultimately get away.
They kill both of them.
Yes.
And get away. And nice. I was convinced, that Penny, because this is the first time you've seen her on screen, Penny's not going to make it. Penny also has one leg at this point, but they all survive.
Yep.
And there's also a side plot where Molly's got this friend who's a bartender who bartended at this place where Steve and Noah had some drinks. And she's like, give me the guy's name. And that's how she finds out initially where Steve lives. And she sends him like a screen grab of her where she is. Like she uses like Find My iPhone or whatever and takes a screen grab of her location. She's like, if you don't hear from me in like 2 days, this is where I am. And so he goes up there to find her. And it's right at the end of the movie. And he hears gunshots. He's like, nope, fuck it. And he turns around and he leaves.
He's like, I'm out of here.
Oh, fucker.
Well, but you know what? He's got a point. How many movies have you seen where somebody goes to rescue someone and just is dead immediately? So.
Exactly. Well, that's the other thing too. I mean, he is a black man and Molly is a black woman, a queer black woman. And that's the thing, is that this film really subverts many rom-com and horror tropes because neither of them die. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that, because I was worried when Dave, you said that she had to eat her friend. I was like, oh no, her friend died. I was like so excited for the like friend rescues her / like Lil Rel from Get Out moment.
Yeah.
Like expecting her to show up and save the day. So I was like really worried there for a minute, but I'm glad that they get away and that they're able to kill.
No, I was actually really
Steve
that actually made me genuinely happy when the movie ended with the 3 women escaping and killing their captors, because I was just like, if this is one of those movies where it's just like misogyny wins, then I was going to be like, oh. But it doesn't. At least in this one instance.
Well, the other nice thing too about in addition to the women banding together, well, except for his Steve's wife, who is very troubled to say the least, is that when Noah is reading through like fashion beauty magazines, kind of like Cosmo, but not Cosmo, she finds a written note in there from a former woman who says, if you're reading this, that means he likes you. Use that to your advantage. Keep fucking fighting. And so that kind of inspires her and gives her motivation to manipulate him, and which is great.
Yeah. And Steve,
I like that.
Steve is smart, but he's not as smart as Noah. And
not as smart as he thinks. Yeah,
right.
Totally.
He's not as smart as he thinks. And he's also, he's really easily, when he catches the feels for someone, it clouds his judgment.
He's very easily duped.
Yeah. Because you can tell that he genuinely likes Noah, which is,
he does.
Which is like unusual for him. And at the beginning,
and even more disturbing.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh,
it's like, I like you, but I'm
but I have to say, Sebastian Stan is amazing in this.
He has become like the actor. I mean, who is like came out of nowhere as far as I'm concerned. About a decade ago. Is that when Captain America, the first one? But is that like 10 years ago?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he is just fantastic in everything. Even that horrible movie where he's the American expatriate in Greece and he and the girlfriend are just like Monday. He's great in that movie.
That garbage film.
That is a garbage movie, but he's great in it.
But he's great.
And he's great as Jeff Gillooly. And so there's
yes. Yeah, he is.
And I just saw something else that he was in, and I was like, man, this guy's got it. Unfortunate. It's Sebastian Stan is not a great like movie name, but all right. Take what you get. So he plays the smarmy, creepy thing so well.
Yeah, he's mesmerizing in this role. I think he absolutely kills it. No pun intended.
The one thing that I thought was a little strange, aside from the entire story, Megan, I wonder how you feel about this. Sebastian Stan, when they shot this, was probably, he's 39 now. He's probably 38, 37 when they shot this. And Daisy Edgar-Jones is 23. So she was maybe 21, 22 when they shot this. I thought this is going to sound naive, but weren't we done with that? Like huge age gaps in casting?
Oh, God, no.
I mean...
Oh, God, no.
I know, but it was just like, because I was like, I'm pretty sure Sebastian Stan is like 40. And I didn't know how old Daisy Edgar-Jones was, but I knew just looking at her.
Yeah, I thought she was like 30. I had no idea.
But she's clearly significantly younger than he is. Like,
yes.
You know?
Yes.
And so when I looked her up and I'm like, she's 23? This is nuts.
It is nuts, but I think it actually plays perfectly into the story because it's all about power dynamics and it's all about misogyny and it's all about, how manipulative and sadistic and coercive and controlling he really is. And so I think it actually fits perfectly that there's such a big age difference.
When you put it in that context, that makes a lot of sense. So...
But yes, Dave, I agree with you. I wish we were done with the drastic age differences too.
Yeah. So, but anyway, Evan, happy ending and super gross. But you also missed like 2 or 3 more very popular 80s songs, but a little off the, Obsession popular 80s song, but it's not like, Safety Dance popular. You know what I mean? So.
No, but it is a good song. And I was like, okay, Dave said earlier I was going to like the soundtrack on this one. I see what he means after that scene. And I just thought I would be able to put up with more of it. I really did. And I think the other thing that really it was the scene where he was making the packages too, where he was like putting photos and items of their clothing in with the meat. That to me, I felt like also put me over the top in terms of just being like absolutely like horrified by the proceedings.
Yeah.
Like his efficiency with like packaging their meat up and like
he's been doing this a while,
Yes, he's got a system down pat. See, the thing of it is I think I have, interestingly and weirdly, I have a kind of a different angle coming at it because as the only woman on the show here, there's a lot this film weirdly gets right about the quote horrors of dating. I mean, the unsolicited dick pics, the really awful, dates and the negging and the insulting of appearances and things like that. And, creepy older dudes who come off really charming and hot, So there's things it gets very, very right. And especially when it is in the allegorical sense and literal sense, looking at cannibalism and the consumption of women and the exploitation of their bodies. I mean, it's very prominent in media that women's bodies are not only objectified, but compared to pieces of meat. Like if you look at advertising through the years, it has a history of comparing women's bodies to meat or sexualizing food to compare it to women's bodies as commodification and consumption. So this film really hits on those points really, really well, and especially reifying it with the close-ups of mouths eating and of overhead shots of food and of carving meat and things like that. So I'm like kind of, used to that in an awful way in this world, being a woman subjected to misogyny and sexism. Interestingly though, where the film loses me, and I actually really enjoy this film. I enjoyed it the first time I watched it when I saw it at Sundance. I enjoyed it again watching it for the show recently. But there's something about it that kind of bugged me, and it was sort of similar to what bothered me about Promising Young Woman. And different but sort of similar. And what bothered me about this film wasn't the grotesqueness, wasn't the disturbing body horror, wasn't the cannibalism. Surprisingly, no, what bothered me was that the takeaway of this feels kind of empty and hollow to me. So, yes, dating sucks and it's a nightmare and it's a dumpster fire and it's a shit show. Okay, but what else? What else is there? And for me, there doesn't really seem to be much. So that kind of irritated me. But at the same time, I think the really peppy soundtrack, the style of this, the energy of it, the kind of fury of this film really kind of worked. And I found this a riveting watch. And the great acting. And the sly subversion of tropes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on all that.
All that sounds good. I think at the end of the day, I'm still glad.
Oh,
I'm glad that I got to hear you do talk about it.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing. Like, if you're that bothered by it, you should never force yourself to watch something.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
that's good stuff. I'm glad I got to hear about it.
But yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. We all have our different triggers and different things that, we can't endure, or like, nope, that's it, I'm out. Like, so
yeah,
totally makes sense. I'm just glad you didn't make yourself watch something that was torturous.
Yeah.
I'm relieved. But any parting thoughts before we talk about The Desperate Hour?
No, I'm actually kind of
I
excited.
just want to hear if you liked it, Dave. I don't know if you liked it.
Oh, I mean, do you like it? I mean, yeah, I guess. I'm never going to watch it again. Because it is so unsettling, which is the point. But
yes.
Yeah, I think this is, if we're doing the Letterboxd 5 stars, it's a solid 3.5.
It's funny that you say you'll never watch it again, because like I said, I watched it twice. And part of the reason I wanted to watch it again was I had such conflicted feelings watching it the first time, because I'm like, this is a really engaging film and I really like how it's made. But it also, there's something really unsettling, and beyond just obviously the disturbing story, but there's something unsettling about it. And I can't reconcile those two feelings or multiple conflicted feelings. And I hoped a second watch would resolve it, and it didn't.
Yeah, well,
that's a shame.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Maybe third time's a charm.
I might be all set on the third time.
Yeah, I don't blame you. All right, so then let's talk about The Desperate Hour. This is directed by Philip Noyce. It is written by Chris Sparling. It stars Naomi Watts. And here's our one-sentence summary. A mother desperately races against time to save her child as authorities place our small town on lockdown. That is very bare bones. Just extrapolate a little bit. Naomi Watts is a widow. Her husband he died about a year ago in a car crash, and she's got a daughter and a son, and she's trying to just kind of like keep it together for herself, but also kind of keep it together for her kids. And her son, Noah, he's been, distant and, really, depressed, and coming up on the year, the anniversary of her husband's death. She kind of has to like try and get him out of bed to go to school, which he really doesn't want to do. And then she's like, okay, I'm going to go for a run and we can talk about it, when I come back. And then while she's out running, she finds out that her son, A, went to school, and B, went to school on the day where there's a lockdown because of a shooter in the school. And so she learns this news when she's in the middle of the woods and has nothing but her phone to try and figure out what's going on with her son. First of all, is he even at the school? Did he go to school that day? And then where is he? What's going on? And so she's just running around in the middle of the woods trying to catch a lift or catch a ride, or ask the guy at the auto garage across the street from the school what he can see. And so that's the movie.
I mean, you summed it up. Yep.
I wish I enjoyed this more.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, I didn't like this at all.
Yeah, it sounded like it could be really interesting on paper, and I just found it frustrating to watch. Just because, like, for multiple reasons. Like, one, it's just, I don't think it's that interesting of a premise, because in the situation of like the school shooting, the school being on lockdown, there's nothing that any parent can really do in that situation unless that parent is like a cop and is on the scene. But even then, like the police aren't running in to confront the shooter. So like you're calling people and like trying to like do something from the middle of the woods, and she's like running around. She trips and falls and hits her head,
which she recovers
like,
from very quickly.
Yeah, from like a massive concussion. And there's also like the kind of like element of like privilege of like, oh, I'm just gonna call around and see if people can like do me favors to like tell me what's going on. Like the guy at the garage, like trying to sneak around and see if he can see if her son's car is in the parking lot or if they're searching it. And you know, like talking to the police constantly. And then like the most absurd thing of it all is that she like finds out the shooter is a disgruntled ex-employee at the school, gets his phone number and calls him in the middle of the hostage crisis while her son is in the classroom that he's holding hostage.
That's not the most absurd thing. I think the most absurd thing is that the detective asks her to call him back.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. I was getting to that.
Sorry.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, you talked to the shooter, so now you should talk to him and see if you can distract him long enough for us to get him. It's what?
That's absurd.
It's absurd. There's no way. There's no way they would do that. There's no reason why they would want someone who has no training to talk to someone who is like unhinged and has a gun and could shoot multiple people. Like, why? They wouldn't do that.
It just makes me, there was a Sundance film that I saw, Michael K. Williams, it was his last film role, and he plays a negotiator for a hostage situation at a bank. And he's pissed off when another cop talks to the person who's holding people hostage, let alone just some rando. So.
Right. Yeah. Some rando parent at the school, like, what the fuck, lady? And like just bombarding them with everybody with calls about this. Like, yeah, I get it. Like there are other parents that are in the same position. Like what makes you so unique? Other than at first you think your kid did it.
Yeah. Well, it's also just absurd.
Like, are they ever going to talk about that voicemail later when she's like calling him being like, please stop this. Like, please, I love you. Please stop this.
Well, also, the way she gets his phone number, she just happens to work for some city agency, like tax agency. I don't even remember what it is. It's just so, I'm just going to go out. This movie's just fucking dumb. Just dumb. You know, I mean, the only reason I don't know whether Philip Noyce and Naomi Watts have worked together before, but much like my relationship with Guillermo del Toro, I think Philip Noyce has made a lot of shitty films, and I've never really understood. Dead Calm kind of like launched him into the stratosphere, and he has been riding that wave in his one good movie for nearly 40 years. For about 30 years, actually. So, I mean, look at his filmography afterward. Patriot Games, shitty movie. Sliver, shitty movie. Clear and Present Danger, shitty movie. The Saint, shitty movie. I mean, it's just unreal.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now.
I do like Salt, though.
Oh, see, I haven't seen that.
I liked Salt. And Bone Collector. I did like Bone Collector.
That's not terrible.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
But anyway, yeah, I just, you can see how they would do this. I mean, it's like, basically one actor, all the other characters, you have one scene that requires some staging. Everything else, you've got, I think she only interacts with her Uber driver and her son until the very end. So they, you shoot it in 9 days, whatever. I just don't, there's just nothing interesting, unique, original. It's almost a fucking farce. I mean, it's just like, I mean, I was kind of willing to ride along with this movie until she hit her head and then recovered, because they make a point in the movie that she kind of loses consciousness, and the movie's called The Desperate Hour. Now, did you lose consciousness for 30 seconds? And did you just get back up and everything's cool? I mean, I guess so. Is that how concussions work? I'm not sure.
Yes.
And that was, finally and that's like a good, this movie also plays with time. I mean, I didn't time it to see whether when she learns of the shooting until the end of the movie, if it is an hour. but I'm sure it's not.
Yeah. I don't know either, but
it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I will say in the film's favor. It's fairly close.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not much else there. It's like you said, Dave, it's dumb. And I would go so far as to say it's DUM dumb. It doesn't even get the B. It doesn't even earn it.
Oh, I'm so glad you guys didn't like this too. Well, no, that's very terrible. Actually, I kind of wish you had liked it because then at least you guys would have had a good experience.
Yeah, it was a real grind to get through this. And like, especially and it's like, okay, we got a movie about a school shooting with, guess what? Nothing interesting to say about school shooting or gun control or any of that stuff. But we're going to have video of the kid at the end doing his, live videos saying nothing of consequence, being like, I'm just going to keep talking and keep speaking out because this is wrong. Yeah, no shit. Everyone says it's wrong. What's new that you have to say about this?
That's a great point. Well, that's the thing.
I forgot
this
about
is not
that.
very well written.
Yeah.
What?
I forgot about that the kid had a live stream. He's like, this is my 27th live stream. Yeah, fuck you, kid.
Well, that's the thing. This is not well written. It is not well acted. I'm sorry, but I do not think that Naomi Watts is a very great actor by any means. And yes, I've seen her be better in things, particularly Mulholland Drive. But I still don't think she's very great. I don't think she can carry a whole film on her own like this. And I don't know about you guys. I was really offended by this movie. It felt extremely emotionally manipulative and exploitative of school shootings. So it really bothered me.
I didn't even give it that much credit. It's just like, it's not even worth the bother, It's just so bad. And it's bad in a way that it's just bad. It's like, at what point no one in the entire production process was like, hey, this is a piece of shit. No one.
I'd like to think no one thinks they're making a piece of shit.
Well, they probably don't. But I mean, I've read enough director memoirs to know that every one of them is like, I knew this movie was going to be a stinker on the third day when this person couldn't do this, and it's like, I don't believe, first of all, I don't believe that Naomi Watts is a runner. And then she's got that injury where she like twists her ankle and then it comes and goes. And it's just like, can we be consistent? Who's your fucking continuity person? Good God.
Well, and that's the thing. If this was a better movie, you could give it some grace and possibly overlook those, technicalities. But because it's so bad, they're just glaring, problems and inconsistencies.
Yeah. So I don't have anything else to say about it. It's just stupid.
Yeah, this is not good.
No, it's definitely not. It was a desperate hour and a half watching this movie, wishing it was over.
Yep.
Well, let's move on because I want to hear about The Batman.
Batman.
The much anticipated movie, The Batman.
Yeah.
So this is written and directed by Matt Reeves, who some of you may know from working on the new Planet of the Apes movies. I haven't seen all of them, but I remember seeing at least one that I thought was really good. So
they're great.
That's cool. It's also co-written by Peter Craig, and it stars Robert Pattinson as the Batman. We've got Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle, Jeffrey Wright as Lieutenant Gordon. We got Colin Farrell as the Penguin, much talked about with the prosthetics we've seen. Paul Dano as the Riddler. Let's see, we got John Turturro as Carmine Falcone, and we got Andy Serkis as Alfred. Interesting choice.
Yep.
So, kids, tell me about the Batman.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at kids. Since I'm an old hag compared to you, Evan.
As long as the record states I did not use those words.
Oh, I did. I'm fine with it. Totally fine. I wear that with pride. Yeah, I mean, Dave, do you want to do the summary or would you like me to?
What summary? This movie's 3 hours long. I mean,
well, that's true. Let's do the very broad overstroke the summary. Yeah. So basically, this is not an origin story, not in the traditional sense of Batman, in that we don't see his parents die. We don't see him don the suit, like all that. Like this is already like almost 2 years into him, Bruce Wayne being Batman. So it's a little different. It starts at a different point, which is nice. And this is very noir, very detective mystery, and it really leans into Batman being a detective, and there's a serial killer on the loose. It's the Riddler, and he leaves clues at murder scenes specifically addressed to the Batman. And so it's basically a murder mystery as the Batman runs all over Gotham trying to find out who the murderer is and how to catch him. And he teams up with Selina Kyle, who is Catwoman, and he interacts with the Penguin and with Carmen Falcone and works a lot with Lieutenant Gordon. And yes.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the overview, because it is a very lengthy summary if we get into all of the storylines.
All the detail.
Yeah, there's so many details.
You've definitely got my attention based on the brief summary you've given.
Oh,
so
good. Yeah, I mean, I loved this.
I did too. I mean, it's not perfect by any means, but overall, I really, really enjoyed it.
Me too. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I mean, it suffers from a little bit of the Lord of the Rings syndrome, Return of the King syndrome, in which it has like 14 endings. There is that. I mean,
that is not wrong.
This movie ends so many times. It's like, Jesus Christ, another one? You know? Like the final ending, when it actually ended, I'm like, oh, that is it.
It's kind of a surprise though, because you're expecting like another one.
Yeah.
But this film moves.
It does.
Surprisingly, for being 3 hours and for having so many characters and so many plots and subplots and whatnot, like it really moves. I was very pleasantly surprised at the pacing.
Yeah, and what I also appreciated, and this is more of a writing / character thing, you know, I don't know whether Christopher Nolan intended this or not, but his Batman, Bruce Wayne, is kind of stupid. Like the villain always tricks him right up until the very end. Like the idea that he doesn't know who Marion Cotillard is in The Dark Knight Rises. By the way, I watched The Dark Knight Rises again recently. That movie makes no sense. But no,
that movie's trash.
It's like fucking. It doesn't. The only reason that it's even captivating at all is because it kind of moves. But in this, they make a point of, you know, because he's so early in his career and he's still figuring things out, it's very clear that he needs Jim Gordon's help just as much as Jim Gordon needs his. You know, he's piecing together this mystery and he's not really getting it. But he does.
I disagree.
No, he does get it, because there's always a moment when it's almost like he has spidey sense. There's always a moment where he's like, ding, wait a minute. If you pour X into B and then you get bloobity blah blah boo, then I should pull up this carpet, you know? Because the first person that the Riddler kills, he kills with this, and I actually recognized what it was. It's this thing that people who lay carpet use to like to push it. They push it with their knee to get the carpet underneath your baseboards, and that murder weapon is at the Riddler's apartment when they finally find him. And I was just like, what are they going to do with this? And this cop says to Batman, he explains what the carpet thing is. My uncle lays carpet. That's what that is. And Batman goes, oh shit. And he rips up the carpet, and like you get the Riddler's master plan to destroy Gotham City, like underneath the carpet. So it's really good in moments like that. But
it is. And the thing I was going to say that's great about it too is that, I mean, the thing that the comics do so well that the films have never really, none of the films except this one has ever really capitalized on, is Batman is Batman, not just because he's a rich, privileged white guy, although that certainly helps tremendously, but it's also that he's incredibly smart. Like, he really is a detective. And so I think the film really utilizes his cleverness and his intelligence quite well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I appreciated how he's smarter than Christopher Nolan's Batman, but he still needs help.
Yes,
I think
yes, I do agree with you that he does still need help, and he's a good team with Jim Gordon.
And he doesn't take Alfred's advice, though he should. But he never takes Alfred's advice in like any Batman movie. But I also really liked that the humor was few and far between. There was the humor comes out in just the right moments, because just when you're thinking, Jesus fuck, is this movie dour, the Penguin shows up, or you're thinking, Jesus, this movie is really dour, and then Batman says to Selena Kyle, "You got a lot of cats," so
which she does.
So, how's the Batman voice in this one? I have to ask, after 3 Nolan Batman movies with like a ridiculous voice, and even Ben Affleck's Batman had a pretty ridiculous voice.
No, his voice is normal. It's his voice.
It's his voice, but he lowers it a little bit when he's in costume, but not much. I mean, but it's not like what always bothered me about Christopher Nolan's Batmans is Christian Bale has such a specific way of speaking that even with that voice that he was doing, he's still got the same, he pronounces S's the same way as Bruce Wayne does. No one figured out that was Batman was Bruce Wayne. No one? Okay. So, and I also appreciate it. Let's get back to the Batman. I appreciated how the Batmobile in this is just like basically a tricked out, I don't know, it looks like like a 1970 Chevelle or something like that, with just like fucking huge fins and like enormous wheels. And there is a seriously amazing car chase in this.
It is a great car chase. Yeah. And Matt Reeves wanted a tricked out muscle car to be the Batmobile, which is great.
Well, it looks so much more practical than any of the other Batmobiles. I mean, the Nolan Batmobile is kind of cool just because it's sort of a tank that moves really fast. Or it's like a Humvee or something. But this is like a car that is made with a V8 engine to begin with, and then tricked out like a motherfucker by someone.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, it's so cool, the car chase. And
I also really love the motorcycle.
Yep, his motorcycle's cool too.
Yeah. It's very clear he loves speed and is willing to endanger his life, and which very much feeds into the whole mythos of Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. And anyway, to get to the central mystery, the mystery is, if you go back to Joker, that piece of shit, the whole, like the way that movie flips everything on its head and makes Thomas Wayne like a super asshole. You get the feeling that this movie is going to do that, but it doesn't. It makes clear that Thomas Wayne accidentally fell in with John Turturro. Which Falcone is he? Carmine. Yeah, he went to Carmine for a favor, and Carmine decided, I can use this favor as leverage, and I'm not going to just like, I don't even remember what it was. Fire an executive, get someone out of the way. He kills this person instead, and so he's worms.
It was a journalist who was
a journalist. That's right.
Yeah, it was a journalist who was going to reveal stuff about his wife.
Right. And then
Bruce Wayne's mother,
who I don't know if this is in the comics or not. Is this in the comics that she was at Arkham Asylum as a patient? Or is that
not that I'm familiar with? I haven't read every single run of Batman, so I'm not sure.
That's
not one I'm familiar with.
That's a plot line in this, Evan.
Yes.
His mother had a history of mental illness. Where was I going with before I started talking about something else completely? I don't know.
You said the central mystery, and that you think that like with Joker,
right,
his father's going to be a jerk, and it doesn't quite go that way.
Thank you for reminding me of that. So
you're welcome.
You get the impression that Thomas Wayne just, in a moment of desperation made a mistake. And so what happens is there's this nonprofit corporation called The Renewal. Is that what it is? A bunch of rich people funnel money into it, and it's supposed to do all these great public works. Well, after Thomas Wayne dies, everybody who's got their fingers in the fund, Carmine Falcone starts using it as like a slush fund to bribe people and to do this. And then he eventually gets like pretty much all the cities, the big wigs, the police, the commissioner whose name I can't remember. It's not Gordon, obviously. And then the DA, Peter Sarsgaard, he's got dirt on all of them. And the Riddler knows that because the Riddler was he an accountant and he just figured this out? Was that it? I saw this a week and a half ago, so I can't really remember. Even with my notes, I actually have here in my notes, Riddler accountant ? But the Riddler has gone to the source of the corruption and is killing off all of the people who are involved with it. And Thomas Wayne is already dead, so he decides to kill Bruce Wayne instead. And I couldn't figure out, after the Riddler's arrested, Megan, and see how you feel about this. Does the Riddler actually know that Bruce Wayne is Batman, or is he just, taunting him with Bruce? Like, I think
he's just taunting.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be like he because it's very clear that Bruce as the Batman is very like, oh fuck, he figured me out. But no, I think he's just taunting him. Like that's the next victim. That they're going to team up together because he has this delusional idea that they've been working in tandem this whole time.
Right.
So yeah,
he leaves a riddle for the Batman every time he kills someone. And I also appreciate how, everyone's like, what does that riddle mean? And then Bruce Wayne is just like, it means blah. And he's correct.
That's what I'm saying. I love it.
Yeah.
He's so clever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people out there, and I can think of who. I don't mean who specifically. I mean which type of person who's going to be like, this man. I just appreciated that this was a mystery at its core. People have been bitching about how dark the movie is. Who gives a shit? It looks good. And Colin Farrell deserves every award along with his makeup person. I mean,
I love Colin Farrell. He's always great.
Yeah. There's a couple of moments when you can actually tell it's him just because he's got those eyes that are only his eyes. But
also his cadence, the way he speaks too.
Yeah. Yeah. But he alters it he doesn't sound like him. I mean, he's done accents and things like that before, but this is at a different level. And so, yeah, I just get to Zoe Kravitz. This is another movie where I've seen her. It was Kimmy last week, and now this, where I'm like, oh, Zoe Kravitz has got the goods. She's really spectacular in this. So
she really is. I agree with you.
And her, reluctant teaming up with the Batman is really cool. It turns out Carmine Falcone is her father. I don't know if that's part of the comics either, but she's out for revenge because her mother, I can't remember how her mother died, but it's directly tied to Falcone. Either through
he killed her.
He did kill her. Okay. I was going to say either through negligence or drug use or murder, he did something. And so her whole thing is like, I'm going to kill Carmine Falcone and you can help me or you can not help me. And the Batman's like, no, you can't fucking kill Carmine. That's crazy. And so she kind of goes back and forth about whether she's going to do it. And finally she's like, fuck it, I'm doing it. And he has to go. And it's just so much fun. It's ridiculous and fun. And just, I appreciated how this was like a city you could live in. Well, because it was shot in real cities, although Nolan's Batmans were too. But the thing about The Dark Knight is when you're watching The Dark Knight, I'm just like, hey, it's downtown Chicago, so it doesn't.
Yeah, it's not masked very well.
Yeah. Well, and then even in The Dark Knight Rises, you're like, wait, are we in Pittsburgh? Because I'm pretty sure that's the museum or whatever. In this, I couldn't tell what city it was. I knew it was like a real one. And just good action, good. The pacing, I thought the pacing was really good. You get some good mystery detective stuff going on, then you get some brooding Bruce Wayne, and then you're like, action sequence, and then Catwoman does the thing, and then Bruce Wayne beats up a guy, and then brooding, blah, blah, blah. And it just kind of goes on like that. What did you think, Megan?
I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I love this. As I said before, I think the pacing is excellent. I think it's really sharply written. I really like the characters and the way they're drawn. I am a massive, massive, massive Catwoman fan. I love the comics. There's a particular run of Catwoman that was in the 90s that I am a huge, huge fan of. And I have, I think, almost every issue, if not every issue. Actually, I'm probably missing like one or two. But anyway, love Catwoman, love Selena Kyle. She's such a great character. And she's such a complicated character, vacillating between anti-hero and hero. And I have, except for Michelle Pfeiffer, I've never been satisfied with a Catwoman. And even Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, as great as it is and as wonderful as Michelle Pfeiffer is, doesn't feel like Catwoman to me, like Selena Kyle. And Zoe Kravitz really nails it. Like, she really gets the kind of playfulness of the character, the seriousness, the viciousness, the passion of the character. And I really, really love that. And I also really love that Zoe Kravitz interpreted the way she portrayed Selena Kyle is as a bisexual woman, because Catwoman is. And I love that. And I love that we see that. We see her affection for her former partner. And then we also see her with Batman. And it's just really nice to see. I mean, it's kind of subtle. You could probably miss it if you're not looking for it, but I was looking for it and I was very excited. So there's that. But yeah, I think the acting is great. I think Robert Pattinson, and I know we've talked about this before, Dave, about, about the choice of casting him as Batman. And I think it is superb casting. I
agree.
Robert Pattinson is so great at brooding, and I think he's such a complicated and fascinating actor. And I love his choice of roles, that I think he really brings something different to this character. And it's a character we've seen so many times before. It's a tortured soul character, but he's doing something slightly different, which I really, really like. And also, you're totally right, Dave. This is visually gorgeous. I love Greg Fraser as a cinematographer. His cinematography is fantastic on Denis Villeneuve's Dune. It's fantastic in The Mandalorian, and it is excellent here. I love the production design. This is just a gorgeous, gorgeous film to watch. And I love how, as dark and ominous and rain-filled as many of the scenes are, he also really utilizes, sunrises and sunsets to really spectacular display, to have these kind of intimate heart-to-heart moments with characters. And I really love that. And there's this one scene where Batman says to Selena Kyle as Catwoman, and he says something like, "Look at me." And it is like the most like seductive way of like talking. Oh my God, it was just great. Anyway, they have palpable chemistry. Love that. I loved this film. This was a blast. So enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely going to see it again in 45 days when it comes out in HBO Max. I have one quibble. Casting Barry Keoghan as the Joker. Because
I think that's fine. I think it fits, actually.
That's the Joker, right? I mean, who the Riddler's talking
Yes, to. That is definitely the Joker. He giggles like the Joker.
Yeah, and I just like Barry Keoghan has grown on me, especially after, of all things, Eternals. But
yeah, he's good in Eternals.
Yeah, when he's very different from what he normally does. I mean, he's always kind of like, I'm Barry Keoghan, I'm weird. I mean, he doesn't do that. But I mean, that's the kind
he says that without actually explicitly saying.
Yeah, that's the kind of energy he brings to things. And I was just kind of like, all right, we're going to slip back into that. Because I think I run hot and cold on Paul Dano. And I think it's actually kind of inspired for him to be the Riddler, because the Riddler's just a guy who happens to be out of his mind. But when you get down to it, a lot of the villains in Batman, the Batman that I know, are just like people who became what they became. It's like, Two-Face. He was an attorney, and then his face was melted off, and he was Two-Face. It's not.
He was an attorney, and then he was a two-faced attorney.
It's not like he walked through a cloud of radiation and got really strong. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if any superhero has done that. By the way, that's just the first thing that came to my head. It's not like he got bit by a spider and then he could climb walls. Like a lot of the villains in Batman are just like people who do crazy shit, like the Joker. So from that standpoint, I really appreciate this. And Barry Keoghan, all right, fine. But I also appreciated just how ambitious this movie is. And ambition alone doesn't usually do it for me, but this movie commits. There are no half measures in The Batman. It's just like Matt Reeves and his co-writer decided, all right, we're going to write this 3-hour noir detective story that just happens to star a bat, and then I'm going to direct the shit out of it. So there you go.
Yeah, he really compared this to Zodiac. And I think, and I've also seen that in several reviews, like at Little White Lies. And I think that's an apt comparison. It really does have very much Zodiac touches, which I'm totally here for. And also, I think it helps that Matt Reeves is a huge Batman fan. Like that definitely, you can feel that. And there's certain attention, there's attention to detail that matters, that especially if you are a fan of the comics, you're going to appreciate. But even if you're not a fan of the comics, like even if you don't care about Batman, I think this is just such a fascinating film. And it's dealing with trauma and grief and what you do with that and vigilantism in such a really, like I said, different and interesting and fresh way. And I really, really like that. I want to comment on what you said about Joker, because I feel like you don't really need the Joker. I mean, I know that's kind of controversial because he's, the pivotal nemesis of the Batman, but I don't really think you necessarily need him. I also am kind of biased because after hearing Mark Hamill voice Joker, there's like nobody, and of course Heath Ledger's amazing Joker. Perfect. I feel like nobody else can really do Joker justice other than Mark Hamill's voice acting and Heath Ledger. So yeah, but I think Barry Keoghan is fine. I mean, it's such a small cameo that it's just like a touch of Joker at the end. And I'm like, we don't need it, but it's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's just like a one-off or if it's setting up a sequel that stars the Joker. I mean, who knows?
Oh, I know.
Oh, do you?
Well, not about the Joker specifically, but yeah, this is intended to be the first of 3 films, and there's also going to be spin-offs on HBO Max.
Right. No, I did know that it was a trilogy. I didn't know about the TV show spin-off.
Oh, you mean specifically about the Joker?
Yeah.
No, that I do not know.
Which would be, I mean, it'd be interesting. It's just like, if you, one of the things, I mean, I remember when they were like, Heath Ledger's going to be the Joker. And I'm like, Heath Ledger's going to be the Joker? The fuck is this? And then you see it and you're like, oh man, does he pull it off?
It's brilliant. Yeah. It is brilliant.
It's truly inspired. And it's like, I don't know if Barry Keoghan is that kind of actor, just because I don't know his body of work the same way. I mean, I think I've seen every movie that Heath Ledger was in up until The Dark Knight, kind of on accident, but also, he's a good actor. So, you go see X, Y, and Z a couple times. We're spending a lot of time on a cameo, so I apologize. But anyway, I'll wrap up my bit just by saying, dug it, can't recommend it enough.
I had more to say about Barry Keoghan's Joker, but that's okay. I will table those thoughts. But yes, I completely agree with you, Dave. This is a fantastic film. So much fun. So glad I saw it. Yeah. Can't wait for you to see it, Evan.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've thoroughly spoiler pieced me into wanting to see this movie. You had me pretty early on describing it as a film noir detective story, but woo-hoo! I mean, you just more and more, the more I hear about it, the more it sounds good. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing it when it does come out on HBO. So let's bring things in for a landing and do a quick recap here. I think you know how I feel about Fresh, considering I couldn't finish it. But what about both of you? It sounds like maybe you're a thumbs up on Fresh. Maybe.
I mean, it's a yay with the caveat that if you don't want to see a movie where cannibalism plays a large role, then maybe take a pass.
Yeah, I'm a thumbs up. I have some issues with the film, but I still think it's entertaining enough and doing some interesting things. But yes, your mileage may vary. So, if you're bothered easily by squeamish things, and I'm not even saying, Evan, you're squeamish. I'm just saying, if you are bothered by squeamish things, it might not be for you.
I understand the qualification. and even normally, there's plenty of other movies about cannibalism that I've enjoyed.
Yes.
This one didn't do it for me. Okay, so The Desperate Hour. It sounds like none of us would recommend that movie.
Nope.
Oh my God, no.
I'd recommend they lose
Pass.
lose the hard drive or the film stock, whatever they shot it on. Burn it.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. By the way, Fresh is going to be available on Hulu. Desperate Hour, I think, is already on demand, and I'm not sure if it made it to theaters or not. The Batman currently in theaters, and you both gave us such enthusiastic recommendations. I can't see this being anything other than people should see it.
Yeah.
Yes, people should see it. Even if you think you don't like Batman, even if you do like Batman, see it.
Agree.
I was so excited to talk about it with you, Dave. I'm so excited that we talked about it.
Yeah, me too. I was like, I didn't see you at the screening. I don't know where you were, but like, I was just like, if Megan made it to the screening, she is fucking having a blast right now. I just remember thinking
I was sitting in the back row in the corner.
Okay.
And yes, I did have a blast.
Yep.
You know me well.
So we want to say a huge thank you to our editor, Otto Clamor. Otto, thank you for making us sound great week after week.
Thanks, Otto.
Thank you, Otto.
You can find the show anywhere you get podcasts, but you can also find us over at our website, which is spoilerpiece.com. You can find us all over social media. We're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook, at Spoiler Piece, for Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok. If you want to get in touch with us, you want to take me to task for not being able to finish Fresh, you can email us spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you can give us a call
at 862-21-PEACE.
You can leave us a voicemail and let us know what you have to say about any of these movies, or just call and say hi. We like that too. And if you like the show, please rate and review us. You can go to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. It'll take you to your platform of choice. Rating or reviewing the show helps us out immensely. It helps more people find the show. And if you really, really like the show, please consider joining our Patreon. We're over at patreon.com/spoilerpiece. And you can sign up and get exclusive audio. In this week's audio, we're talking about the 2006 film Pan's Labyrinth. And we saw that because we wanted to put Dave to the test and see if he really hates everything by Guillermo del Toro, or if maybe this one he might find okay. So definitely check that out. Consider joining our Patreon. And so that does it for this episode of Spoiler Piece Theater. My name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
My name is Megan Kearns. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I, too, am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. You can follow me on Twitter at OpinionSWorld and on Instagram and Letterboxd at TheOpinionS.
And my name is Dave Riedel. I write about movies. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. I'm at Dave Sees Movies.
And we will see you next week for episode 400 of Spoiler Piece Theater.
Yay! Bye.
Bye.
Bye.